Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where I share creepy and scary stories that will give you chills. If you love horror and spooky tales, make sure to subscribe and join me every week for a new story. Let's get into the dark side together. The city never truly slept, but at 3 in the morning, it forgot how to breathe. Fog rolled in thick from the river, swallowing neon lights until they glowed like dying embers in the mist. The streets were slick with rain, their silence broken only by the occasional hiss of tires on wet asphalt. Detective Cole Mercer tightened his coat around his shoulders as he ducked under the yellow tape. His breath came out in pale clouds, though it wasn't the cold that chilled him. It was a body. The woman lay sprawled across the steps of the old train station, her clothes dark with rain and something thicker, darker. In her hand was a broken watch. The glass cracked, the hand stuck at 2:17. "Another one," muttered an officer, scribbling on his notepad. His voice carried no life, just fatigue. "Third this month." Cole crouched down, the rain dripping from the brim of his hat. He examined the watch, then the way the body was posed, deliberate, almost theatrical. He didn't need to say it aloud. Whoever was doing this wanted them to notice. A car pulled up, its headlights cutting through the fog. From the back seat stepped a woman in a dark suit, her heels clicking against the wet pavement with unnerving precision. "Eliza Hart," Cole said dryly, standing as she approached. "Didn't think this was your hour." "It isn't," Eliza replied, her tone sharp but steady. Her eyes went immediately to the corpse, then to the broken watch. She didn't flinch. "But it seems the killer has made it mine." Cole studied her for a moment, then gestured toward the body. "What do you see?" Eliza knelt beside the victim, her gloved fingers hovering just above the watch without touching it. Her gaze was sharp, calculating. The first victim's watch stopped at 11:45, the second at 1:06. Her eyes flicked up to Cole. "This one, 2:17. Cole frowned. "So he's counting up the hours?" "No," Eliza whispered. She glanced at the ancient clock tower looming above the station, its face barely visible through the fog. The hands of the tower clock were frozen, unmoving, stuck at the exact same time as the watch in the dead woman's hand. Her throat tightened. "He's not counting up, Detective. He's setting the clock." The rain fell harder, masking the silence that hung between them. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolled once, hollow and haunting, and the city, though it did not yet know it, had just been wound tighter into the killer's design. Morning brought no comfort. The city was awake now, but its hum felt wrong, unsettled. The story had already hit the airwaves. Another victim, another clock. Eliza sat in the precinct conference room, her notes spread across the table in neat rows. She hadn't slept. Each victim's name was scrawled in black ink, underlined twice. Helen Rowe, 34. Found at the river docks. Watch stopped at 11:45. Daniel Cross, 41. Found near the courthouse. Watch stopped at 1:06. Rachel Lennox, 29. Found at the train station. Watch stopped at 2:17. Different backgrounds, different lives. No visible link between them, except the watches. Cole entered with 2 cups of coffee, setting one down in front of her. He looked rough, like he'd slept in his car. "You've been up all night." Eliza didn't look up. "So have you." He shrugged. "I like my beauty sleep optional." She finally raised her eyes to him, sharp and searching. "What's your theory, Mercer?" Cole sat, leaning back in his chair. "Guy's theatrical, ritualistic, wants attention, leaves a calling card, so we know it's him." That surface level, Eliza said coldly. She tapped her pen against the times written in her notes. "These aren't random. 11:45, 1:06, 2:17. Each is exactly 81 minutes apart." Cole's brow furrowed. "You're sure?" She slid her notepad across the table, calculations scribbled in the margins. "Positive. He's counting in intervals." Cole stared at the numbers, then rubbed his jaw. "So, what happens when he hits midnight?" The question hung between them like a blade. That afternoon, Eliza insisted on visiting the archives. The city's library basement smelled of mildew and dust, lined with old newspapers. She pulled files on unsolved murders from decades past, Victims found during storms or near clocks, always strange in some small way. Cole leaned over her shoulder, scanning the headlines. These go back 40 years. 50, Eliza corrected. Her finger stopped at a yellow clipping. Local watchmaker found dead. Shop burned in mysterious fire. The article showed a photo of a grim-faced man in spectacles. Henry Voss. His shop had stood just blocks from the train station. Voss, Cole muttered. Any relation to Adrian Voss, the professor? Eliza's lips pressed into a thin line. Brother. She exhaled slowly, her pulse quickening. Maybe the clocks aren't just a symbol. Maybe it's a legacy. Cole's gaze hardened. And maybe our killer's been winding this story for a lot longer than we thought. That night, as Eliza left the precinct, she noticed something chilling. Across the street, perched in the rain-soaked glow of a lamppost, hung a watch on a broken chain. Its cracked glass gleamed in the wet light, its hands frozen at 3:38. Her stomach lurched. The next interval. And someone had left it just for her. Eliza held the broken watch in her gloved hand. Rain dripping from her hair, her pulse hammering in her throat. Someone had left it where she couldn't miss it. The message was clear. She was part of this now. The next morning, she and Cole sat across from Professor Adrian Voss in his office at the university. The place smelled of leather and old books, walls lined with shelves of antique clocks. Some ticked faintly, others sat broken, their hands forever frozen in silence. Voss was a thin man with sharp cheekbones and eyes too bright for his age. His hands trembled as he wound a pocket watch, but his voice was steady. You think these murders are connected to my brother? Eliza didn't flinch. Henry Voss died in that fire 50 years ago, but the symbolism is too precise to ignore. Every victim found near a clock, each watch carefully placed. Why? The professor closed the pocket watch with a snap. Henry was obsessed with time. He believed it wasn't linear. He thought if you could measure it correctly, control its intervals, you could control people, their patterns, their lives, even their deaths. Cole frowned. That's not obsession. That's madness. Voss smiled faintly. Is there a difference? Eliza leaned forward. Professor, if someone is carrying on his legacy, what's the purpose of the intervals? 81 minutes. Why that number? The professor's eyes darkened. Because 81 minutes is 1/53rd of a day, a fraction. Henry believed if you split the day into equal parts, you'd find the true rhythm beneath the world. Every life he took, every clock he broke, was part of his experiment. Cole swore under his breath. So you're saying these killings are math? Not math, Voss whispered. A ritual. Eliza sat back, her blood running cold. And if he's keeping the same intervals, there will be another murder. Soon. Voss didn't answer. He simply rose, walked to the window, and drew the curtain aside. Outside, the bell tower loomed above the campus. Its hands were frozen at 3:38, the exact time on the watch Eliza had found. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She replayed Voss's words in her head, the ticking of his clocks like phantom echoes in her ears. When her phone buzzed, she snatched it up, a text from an unknown number. You're almost there. 5:59. Her stomach turned to stone. The next interval. And this time, the killer wasn't leaving a watch. He was leaving her instructions. The city was washed in silver rain, neon signs bleeding into puddles along the cracked pavement. Eliza pulled her coat tighter and checked her watch. 5:51. 8 minutes until the time the message had promised. Cole had begged her to wait, to let him call backup, but Eliza had ignored him. Whoever was behind this wasn't just killing strangers. They were playing with her, and she had no why. The text had given no address, only the numbers. Yet as Eliza walked the empty streets, she saw it. The old train station clock, its black hands frozen at 5:59. The station was abandoned years ago, its grand glass roof shattered, weeds pushing through the tiles. She stepped inside, flashlight beams slicing through the damp air. Silence. Then, tick. Her heart stopped. The sound wasn't mechanical. It was deliberate. Someone, somewhere, clicking their tongue in rhythm. Who's there? Her voice echoed. No reply. She moved past the ticket counters, her boots crunching on broken glass. In the center of the concourse stood a chair. On it, another broken watch, its face cracked like a spiderweb. Eliza's recorder trembled in her hand as she pressed a button. This is Eliza Harrington. If I disappear... Click. Another tick, this time behind her. She spun, flashlight catching movement, a shadow darting along the platform. She chased it, lungs burning, until she reached the far end where the old tracks vanished into darkness. There, carved into the wall with something sharp, was a phrase, "Time devours all," and beneath it a photograph pinned to the stone with a rusted nail. Eliza's blood ran cold. The photo was of her, standing at Margaret's bookshop, taken from across the street. A whisper curled from the shadows. "You're late, Eliza." Her light flickered, then died. Eliza's breath fogged in the sudden cold. The flashlight was dead, the silence absolute, until the whisper came again. "You shouldn't have come alone." Her pulse hammered. She raised the recorder in front of her like a shield. "You wanted me here, so talk. Who are you?" The shadows shifted. From the far end of the station, a figure stepped into the faint wash of moonlight, leaking through a broken window. Tall, still, the face veiled by a mask made from shattered glass pieces, each fragment catching dim silver light. "I am Time," he said softly. His voice was layered, distorted, like a choir of whispers. "And you are out of it." Eliza steadied herself. "You're killing people to prove some sick theory." "No," his tone sharpened. "I'm rescuing them. Look around your city, rotting, rushing, choking itself to death. Every tick another lie, another compromise. They don't live, they wait. I release them from waiting." "You're insane." The masked man tilted his head. "No, Miss Harrington. I'm precise. There's a difference." He stepped closer. Her hand tightened around the recorder, thumb pressing against the button. If she died here, at least the world might hear his words. Then, suddenly, he laughed. A low, chilling sound. "You think you've chosen this meeting? You think you control the story? But I'm the one writing the clock. And your chapter is ending." He lifted a hand, and dangling from his gloved fingers was another broken watch, its hands frozen at 5:59. Before she could move, he dropped it. The shattering echoed through the station like gunfire. When Eliza blinked, he was gone. Only the ticking lingered, though no clock remained. Darkness swallowed everything. Eliza barely remembered running from the station. By the time she stumbled back into the street, rain was falling again, cold needles stinging her skin. Her recorder was still in her hand, the red light flickering. She rewound it, pressed play. The distorted voice bled through the tiny speaker. "I am Time, and you are out of it." She nearly dropped it, back in her apartment. She poured whiskey with trembling fingers and stared at her wall of notes. Photographs, scribbled timelines, victims' faces staring back at her. All strangers, all with broken watches on their corpses. Until the phone rang. Her heart jumped. The caller ID was blocked. She let it ring once, twice, before answering. "Eliza," the voice rasped. "Did you like the station? A rehearsal, nothing more." She froze. "You've made this very interesting," the voice continued. "So I've chosen carefully. The next one will matter to you." "What do you mean?" "Check tomorrow's headlines." The line clicked dead. Morning came with a storm. The city woke to sirens and flashing blue lights outside an apartment complex downtown. Eliza shoved her way through the crowd, press badge raised. Her chest tightened as she saw the gurney. The sheet slipped, and her breath left her body. The victim was Daniel Hayes, her former editor, the man who had given her her first job, the man who had always said she chased stories like someone running from ghosts. Pinned to his jacket was a broken pocket watch. Its hands, like the others, were frozen. But this time, they pointed to 3:15. Eliza felt her legs weaken, and in her pocket, her recorder switched on by itself. Static filled the speaker. Then a whisper slipped through. "Your turn, Eliza. The hourglass is running." Eliza couldn't feel her own hands. They shook as she shoved her recorder into the desk drawer, as though burying it could silence the whispers still echoing in her skull. "Your turn, Eliza." Daniel Hayes' face haunted her vision. She had stood by his side during long newsroom nights, his cigarette smoke curling into the air while he edited her early stories. Now he was just another body with frozen hands on a broken clock. The police had cordoned off the crime scene, but she knew Cole would come knocking soon. She wasn't ready to tell him everything. Not about the station, not about the recorder, not about Marcus. Instead, she chased a detail that clawed at her. 3:15. She combed through her files, her own past. At 3:15 years ago, she had been standing in Daniel's office. The night her first investigative piece ran. He had raised his watch, tapping its glass. "Remember, Harrington, every tick is borrowed. Don't waste it." Her stomach lurched. This wasn't random. The killer was threading her memories into his ritual. The storm outside cracked thunder across the skyline. She jumped when her door buzzed. Opening it, she found a plain envelope on the mat. No footsteps in the hall. No one outside. Inside, another watch shattered, its hands at 12 o'clock. Midnight, a note scrawled in jagged ink. "When the clock strikes 12, I'll come for you. Let's see if you've learned to stop time." Her chest tightened. Midnight was hours away. Eliza locked every bolt, every chain. But as the wind howled through the city, she realized the worst truth of all. The ticking wasn't coming from the envelope. It was inside her apartment. The apartment ticked. Eliza pressed herself against the wall, eyes darting toward every shadow. She had torn through her belongings, drawers yanked open, closets emptied, even the refrigerator dragged from the wall. But the sound persisted, a relentless, steady tick-tick-tick, like the pulse of something alive. The envelope lay open on the table, the shattered watch staring up at her, hands frozen at 12. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Just one word. "Listen." She froze. The ticking grew louder, not from the watch, not from her walls, from the recorder in the drawer. Her breath caught. She stepped closer, pulled it out. The red light was on, though. She hadn't touched it since yesterday. Static hissed. Then the distorted voice crawled through the speaker. "It's midnight, Eliza. Time stops for you now." Her lights flickered. The storm outside howled. She grabbed the nearest object, a heavy glass ashtray, and gripped it like a weapon. "Show yourself," she shouted, her voice breaking. The window creaked open an inch, though she had locked it. Rain misted through the gap. The curtain swayed, and for a heartbeat she saw him, the mask of broken glass, fragments glittering in the lightning. Then darkness. The power cut. She stumbled, fumbling with her phone's flashlight. The beam shook wildly across the room. Nothing, only the recorder's glow, pulsing red like a heartbeat. Tick, tick, tick. She backed toward the door. Her hand found the knob. The lock was gone. Completely gone. Just smooth metal. A whisper slid to the room, so close it brushed her ear. "You can't leave. Time doesn't open doors. It closes them." Eliza screamed, spinning, light slashing across the shadows. And there, by the kitchen counter, he stood, tall, still, mask glittering. Her phone slipped from her hand, the light rolling across the floor. Darkness surged. The last thing she heard before silence swallowed everything was the click of another watch breaking. The crash of glass echoed through her apartment. Eliza's body pressed tight against the cold plaster, heart jackhammering. She forced her breath quiet, though the storm outside roared like the city itself wanted her to scream. Her phone's beam spun in dizzy circles on the floor. For a second, she saw his boots step into the light, polished black leather, soaked in rain. Then they were gone, swallowed back into the dark. The ticking was everywhere. Not one clock, but hundreds, overlapping, like the whole room was wired with invisible gears. "Think, Eliza." She lunged to the recorder on the table. Fingers fumbling, she jammed the button. "This is Eliza Harrington," she hissed. "He's here. He's in my apartment." A shadow swept over her. She ducked instinctively, the air splitting as something heavy smashed into the wall above her. Wood splintered. "Time's up," the voice breathed. "No." She hurled the recorder across the room. The crash snapped the ticking into silence. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Lightning slashed through the window, filling the room with white fire, and in that instant she saw him clearly. The glass mask wasn't random shards. They were watch faces, broken dials, cracked numbers, frozen hands. His entire identity built from shattered time. Her scream tore through the apartment. She grabbed the fallen phone, swung its weak light toward the kitchen, and bolted for the window. Rain lashed in her face as she wrestled the latch. Behind her, boots crunched closer, deliberate, patient. "Every second you waste," he whispered. "I own." The window flew open. Without thinking, she hurled herself into the storm. Wind caught her. Gravity yanked her down. She crashed into the fire escape, ribs screaming with pain. Metal groaned under her weight. Above, the mask leaned out, glowing in the lightning. Watching, waiting. And then he stepped back. Gone. Eliza gasped in the rain, clutching her side. But when she looked at the fire escape floor, a new watch lay waiting. Hands frozen at 11:59, the fire escape shuddered under her weight as Eliza scrambled down, rain blinding her, breath ragged in the icy air. Her ribs burned, each inhale like a knife twisting deeper. Still, she clutched the frozen watch in her fist until its edges cut into her palm. 11:59. Why that time? Why always 1 minute from the hour? The storm drowned the city. Sirens wailed somewhere far off. But here it was just her, the hunted, and the ticking she swore still lingered in her ears. She hit the alley floor hard, knees buckling. For a second, she thought she would collapse. Then she saw movement, a figure at the far end of the alley. Tall, still, watching. Her pulse stuttered. "No," she whispered. Not again. The figure didn't move, didn't advance, just stood in the rain, head cocked as though studying her. Lightning split the sky, and the alley was empty. Eliza staggered backward, colliding with a trash bin. She shoved herself into the open street, half running, half limping. Her apartment was gone, her sanctuary gone. She had one option left, the newsroom. By the time she stumbled into the building, the clock above the lobby read 12:03. She was shaking, dripping rainwater across the tile floor. The night guard rose from his desk, startled. "Miss Harrington, you look..." "Don't," she snapped, cutting him off. "Just don't." She pushed past him toward the stairwell, clutching the recorder she had retrieved on instinct before escaping. Her office felt cavernous in the empty building. She dropped into the chair, recorder on the desk, watch beside it. Her blood smeared across the broken glass. And then she saw it, pinned to her corkboard, above all the articles she had written, was a new clipping. She hadn't put it there. A photograph of her, taken from across the street. The headline beneath read, "Local reporter found dead at midnight." Her chest tightened. The print was fresh, ink still damp. The recorder clicked on by itself. The voice slid through the static. Eliza's fingers shook as she peeled the clipping from her corkboard. The paper was damp, almost sticky. She realized with a jolt it wasn't ink staining the edges. It was blood, her blood. The cut in her palm from gripping the shattered watch throbbed. Drops had smeared across her desk, across the recorder. Somehow, impossibly, the killer had been here already, stitching her into the narrative. She stumbled back, chair wheels screeching against the floor. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "You can't be everywhere." The recorder hissed. "I don't need to be everywhere, Eliza. I only need to be in your time, and you keep giving me more of it." Her chest tightened. She grabbed her phone, hands slick with rainwater and blood, and dialed Cole. It rang once, twice. Static burst into her ear, then a voice answered. Not Cole. Detectives read evidence. Journalists write it. Which are you tonight? She dropped the phone, bile rising in her throat. He had her number. He had her newsroom. He had her. The lights flickered. Across the room, her computer screen blinked alive. The cursor moved on its own, letters crawling across the blank document. The last hour of Eliza Harrington. Her breath hitched. She lunged forward, slammed the monitor off. But when she turned, the broken glass mask stared back at her from the window's reflection. Behind her, she spun, heart hammering. Nothing, only the storm outside. The recorder clicked again. When the page is full, you're finished. Tick, tick, tick. Eliza clutched the recorder to her chest, desperation cutting through her fear. If you're writing this, then you need me alive to finish it. You need me. Silence. For the first time, silence. Her mind raced. That was it. The weakness. The killer wasn't just slaughtering strangers. He was orchestrating a narrative. Her narrative. But if she could flip the story, write him into the ending, maybe she could take back the clock. She yanked a fresh notepad from her drawer, uncapped a pen with trembling fingers, and began to write. Chapter 1. The Mask Breaks. Midnight isn't when you die, Eliza. Midnight is when you begin. The pen carved across the page, ink smearing where her hands trembled. Every stroke felt like a battle against the ticking that filled the newsroom, against the eyes she swore pressed in from the shadows. If he's writing me, she thought, then I'll write him. Her words scrawled in frantic lines. The mask breaks. The man who hides behind time is dragged into the light. He cannot move unseen. He cannot speak in echoes because his voice belongs to me now. His story ends. The recorder on her desk crackled violently, as if fighting her. Static screamed through the speaker. Then the distorted voice cut in, jagged and furious. Stop. You cannot dictate what you don't understand. Eliza's laugh was ragged, half mad. Watch me. The lights flickered overhead. The windows rattled with the storm. Her notepad page soaked with fresh raindrops, though none had fallen inside. She wrote faster. The mask breaks. The mask breaks. The mask breaks. The office door slammed open. Eliza's heart stopped. A silhouette filled the doorway. Tall, broad shoulders. The flash of lightning illuminated the glass mask, shards glittering like knives. The notepad fell from her hands. The figure stepped forward, boots echoing on the tile. His distorted voice filled the room. You think this is your story? You are nothing but ink, Eliza. I'm the hand that writes. Eliza's back pressed to the desk. Her eyes darted to the recorder, still glowing red. She whispered, barely audible. Then let's see which of us runs out of time first. And with shaking fingers, she hit record. The storm swallowed the building. The power went out. The only sound left was a pen scratching, recorder hissing, and the tick-tick-tick closing in. Darkness wrapped the newsroom like a coffin. The storm outside pounded the windows, thunder shaking the walls. Eliza's recorder hissed, capturing every breath, every tick, every whisper. The masked man loomed closer, glass shards glinting in the faint lightning. Put the pen down, he said. His voice was a chorus of echoes, layered and inhuman. You cannot author time. Eliza's fingers tightened around her pen. Maybe not time, she whispered, but I can author you. She dove for a notepad, scribbling furiously even as a shadow spilled across her. The mask falters. He isn't endless. He bleeds. The recorder popped, as though resisting. The masked man jerked slightly, his steps faltering. A thin line of blood trickled from beneath the jagged glass. He snarled, "Stop this." Eliza's heart thundered. She pressed harder. He bleeds. He bleeds. He bleeds. The storm screamed with her words. He staggered, clutching his mask. But then he laughed. A low, broken laugh. You think a journalist's pen outweighs a clock? You've made yourself a protagonist, Eliza. But protagonists die for stories. He lunged. Eliza hurled the pen like a dagger. It clattered off his mask uselessly. She scrambled back, grabbed the recorder, and shouted into it. The mask breaks. Static erupted. The shards across his face vibrated, whining like glass under pressure. Cracks spiderwebbed across the mask. Lightning flashed, bright as day. For a moment, she saw his eyes through the breaks. Human, angry, afraid. Then the power surged back on. The newsroom was empty. Her recorder lay silent on the desk. Her notepad open, the last line etched in smeared ink. The mask breaks. and beside it, another watch. Its hands frozen at 12:01. Eliza stared at the watch on her desk. 12:01, the minute after the end. Her chest tightened as the storm outside broke into silence, as though the city itself was holding its breath. Her recorder clicked on by itself. Static swelled, then his voice, distorted and calm. Do you feel it, Eliza? The freedom of a minute that shouldn't exist. You're living in stolen time now. My time. Her knees buckled. She pressed her hands to her temples, fighting the urge to scream. Why me? Why any of this? The voice laughed softly. Because you write stories. And I need mine told. Her gaze darted to the notepad. Her own scrawled words bled across the page. The mask breaks. The mask breaks. It felt like she had written her way into his trap rather than out of it. Then footsteps. Heavy reel. The office door burst open. Eliza! Detective Cole's voice thundered. He froze at the sight of her, pale, trembling, surrounded by bloodied paper and broken glass. She collapsed into his arms, shaking. He was here. I saw him. I heard him. Cole, Cole scanned the room. The overturned chair, the cracked window, the watches scattered across her desk. But no man, no mask. Eliza, he said, voice firm. There's no one here. She shoved the notepad at him. He left this. Look, the watch, 12:01. Cole lifted it, his brows furrowed. Eliza, this watch isn't broken. It's ticking. Her breath stopped. The steady tick filled the room, echoing off the walls. Cole placed it back down gently. Eliza, he whispered, almost like a confession. Are you sure you weren't chasing a ghost you made yourself? Her eyes burned. She wanted to deny it, scream at him, but deep inside she felt the chill of doubt creeping in, because when she looked at the notepad again, the words had changed, in her own handwriting. The mask does not break. The mask is the writer. Eliza is the ending. The office window shuddered as another gust of wind rattled through the city. Cole's hand was still on Eliza's shoulder, but his eyes, narrow, calculating, never left hers. Eliza, he said carefully, tell me the truth. Did you see him tonight? Or did you just write him? Her throat tightened. Words clawed to get out, but her body betrayed her with silence. Then behind Cole, the shadows stirred. A shape unfurled from the corner of the room. The masked man, no longer a whisper, no longer a smearing glass, stood tall, his porcelain mask gleaming in the lamplight. Cole spun, draw his gun. Don't move. The man tilted his head, as if amused. His voice slithered across the room. Always quick to point a gun, detective. But what do you aim at? Flesh or a reflection? Eliza's recorder clicked again, capturing every syllable. She gripped her pen like a weapon. Why me? She demanded. Her voice cracked, but she pushed on. Why follow me? Why bleed into my words? The masked man stepped closer. Cole's finger hovered on the trigger, sweat beating his temple. Because stories live longer than killers, he murmured. And you, Eliza, you made me immortal. Her heart pounded. She realized with a sickening clarity. Every time she wrote about him, every line she tapped into her notepad, she had been building him, feeding him. Cole fired. The gunshot cracked the silence. The bullet punched through the masked man's chest, yet no blood fell. Instead, letters, black and writhing, spilled from the wound like ink. They scattered across the carpet, crawling like spiders before fading into nothing. Cole's jaw dropped. What the hell? The masked man leaned closer to Eliza, ignoring the gun, ignoring the wound. His voice was low, intimate. Finish the story, Eliza, or I'll finish you. She raised a pen, trembling. Her notepad shook beneath her hand. One sentence could end it. One line could decide whether he remained or vanished. Cole's voice broke the storm silence. Eliza, write him out. Her eyes met the mask. She saw a reflection in its smooth, pale surface, wide, terrified, and yet resolute. Her pen scratched the paper. The masked man ceased to exist. The room convulsed. A scream, half human, half shattering glass, tore through the air. The masked man twisted, his form collapsing into smoke and letters, until nothing remained but the faint scent of rain. Silence. Cole dropped his gun arm, chest heaving. Eliza's hand was still locked around the pen. Finally, she looked up. "Did I kill him?" Cole studied her with wary eyes. On the desk, the watch still ticked. Steady, calm, ordinary. "I don't know," he admitted. "But if you did, you might have killed a part of yourself, too." Eliza glanced at her notepad. The final words glowed faintly before fading into blank paper. No record. No evidence. Just absence. For the first time in days, the storm outside eased. But inside her chest, the thunder never stopped.